Hello and welcome back to Up the Villa podcast. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, get involved in the comment section down below. We want to hear your thoughts. This is the debrief. We have a look at Wolves v Aston Villa in a little bit more detail. Joined by Justin. I think I'm just going to button it for about 5 minutes and let Justin speak. So, Wolves 1, Villa 0. What are your thoughts?
I've had 24 hours to have a think about this, I suppose. I think I was a bit pissed off after the game, frustrated really, because they didn't play as well as they have been over the previous 8, 9, 10 weeks, have they? I know the last couple of games the levels have dropped, but I really thought, being a derby, local derby with 4 games to go, still massively in the hunt for Europe. Wolves off the back of an absolute hammer in the week before. I thought we could really go there and exploit them. In the first 5 or 10 minutes, I thought we started well. I said to you, didn't I? I said, I think we've started well here. Hopefully, this is good. And then 9th minute, they get that goal and everything changed. We was playing within ourselves. I think that was the problem. We was playing within our shell. We didn't really get going. I mean, I think I would say we were at 60% of our maximum yesterday, yet we were still the best team on the pitch, in my opinion. It was 2 teams that were struggling, really, I think, to try and... neither team was flowing. Neither team was outstanding. We was very bitty, but we created 2 amazing chances, 1 in each half. Ollie Watkins' header, which he absolutely should bury, and perhaps 3 or 4 weeks ago that goes in. And then the one near the end, Tyrone Mings, his shot, which he should have at least put on target. So for me, we should never have lost that game. Have they got the ability? Absolutely got the ability. They've proved it time and time again since Unai Emery's come in, that they are good enough to play at this level, and they're good enough to be, good. But it does seem to be a mentality problem. I think that is the issue now. It's up here where they're losing games and they're not believing in themselves. So I think it's something he'll have to look at. Something that, if anything, I think it's hard. It's not a bad thing to have happened, to be honest, because we've pushed ourselves into the European picture, which, it's a different mindset, it's a different ability level to get into there. And Emery's now seen that, the players that he can maybe trust and rely on up that top end of the Premier League table, and maybe the players that haven't been able to step it up and give him, the consistency level that we do need. If we are going to retain a position in the top 8 of the Premier League, you've got to be good 9 times out of 10, haven't you? So have some of those players play themselves out of the squad for next season? Probably. So it was a really hard one to take. I'm fed up of losing to Wolves and not getting results against Wolves. They seem to be our bogey team now, which is really disappointing. So yeah, it was a disappointing day overall.
Yeah, it was just bitterly frustrating, and you're in that concourse before the game and it's so loud. It was brilliant, and then you stand there and sit there or whatever, and it's just quiet across that bottom rail of the whole stand. And we're being baited for like 90 minutes, and then you sort of get home and your frustration just all over the place. But you make a great point about Unai Emery and what he's been saying recently, because he said, hasn't he, that it's one thing getting in the position, but the next phase of staying in it can become quite difficult as well. So I think we've sort of met that block, haven't we, of actually like staying in those European positions and then not kicking on and keeping that consistency and that, like you say, I don't ever feel like we treat that game as a derby for a starter. I always feel like we just seem to just like rock up there, and I look at it now and I hear the message of what Emery's trying to get the players to be like calm, isn't he? He wants them to stay calm for the whole game. Like, he wants them to stay calm, playing out from the back. You can see that the players look quite relaxed during a 90-minute performance. They rarely look flustered, but you never really see that like little bit of a hurry up. You know, when there's a throw-in or the ball goes out of play, you never really see any of them like quickly running to go and pick up that ball or try and get it back in play. It all feels quite calm. And I think that sort of tempo vibe of sort of understanding that we've got to quicken it up a little bit, and we are in a position that we were trying to get into Europe. So it never felt like when I was watching it like we were there to go and sort of win the game. It felt quite going through the motions. I don't know if that's what you thought, but that's the vibe I got from watching it yesterday.
We just couldn't raise it to a level where I think we would have won the game comfortably. I really believe that. At half time, we went in 1-0 down and we were talking, and I genuinely thought, if we could change Toure, who's having a mare, put whoever else on, and I thought Bailey did okay. When he came on, he was more of a threat than Toure was, which probably ought to be more than the threat than Toure, to be fair. I thought we could raise it up. I really did. And we never. The second half was a very similar level to the first half. We had all the possession. Wolves did make it. Let's not. It wasn't a great Wolves performance by any stretch, but they did make it very difficult for us. They got the early goal and they just sat in. They was happy to sit back and hit us on the counter. I was talking to my neighbour today. He's a big Wolves fan, and he said that's the way we've been playing at home, and that's the way they've been getting results. They've been nicking goals and just defending really well. They've got 10 clean sheets, I think he said, this season at home, which is unbelievable. He said, but when we've gone away, we haven't been able to play the same way, and we're getting beat quite comfortably in some of the away games. So it's obviously something they've hit on. It's something that's worked for them, and in the position they were in, they had to do anything really to pick points up, and it's not pretty. I wouldn't want to watch that week in, week out, and I'd be surprised if he continues to play like that next season when he's got a clean sheet. But ultimately it was successful, wasn't it? And it got them 3 points. So if you're a Wolves fan, you're over the moon, aren't you? You've got the goal, you've got a clean sheet, you've won the game. On a Villa perspective, for me, we just didn't do enough, and we wasn't busy enough. Players in really key positions didn't raise their game to the point where they have done recently. I think particularly the three in behind Ollie Watkins, were the ones that basically, if they play well, we play well. I think that's how I see us at the moment. The back
how
five
many
are very
times have we
good.
said that?
Yeah, well, this is the problem there. That's the key area for us on the pitch. You've got the back five who are generally outstanding most weeks. You've got the two in the double pivot whoever plays there, whether it's McGinn, Kamara or Louise, are generally 7s and 8s every week. Ollie Watkins needs the service, so he relies on those three in behind him to create chances for him, which we hadn't seen for a couple of games. And those three, I think, it's the area we're going to be massively looking at in the summer. The creative engine room, if you like, of the side that has to take the heavy lifting in creating and putting chances and scoring as well. They've got to score and assist week in, week out. So it's as I say, I think the manager, Emery, will look at that area and think, okay, they've done fantastically well to get us where we are here, but if we want to be competing in that top 6 or 7 places next year, we need an upgrade in 2 or 3 of those positions now.
Yeah, and talking about player positions, did we see yesterday a slight evolution pending of our system and personnel? So any of you that know me through watching this know that I love tactics. I love, looking at tactics, looking at how teams play, how teams set up. But I really do feel like yesterday we maybe saw something, a little bit of maybe what's to come. Now, as Villa fans, we know that Moreno is our actively playing a little bit like a left winger, isn't he? He's a left winger playing at left back. That sort of, if you look at all of our average positions during this season, Moreno is the one that's always a little bit further forward in this area here. If you look at Manchester City this season, they've been playing with 4 centre backs. And then what you're finding with them is that John Stones is actually playing as a central midfielder. We're now seeing Trent Alexander-Arnold dropping into midfield now. So he's now playing as a central midfielder, but starting the game at right back. And did we kind of see Villa tweaking our system a little bit? So what I mean by that is, instead of having an out-and-out right back, we are now, when Carlos came on, he went into central defence. Konsa went to right back, and that gave us a bit more of a solid three. You saw that Carlos was pinging those balls into Ramsey or pinging them into Moreno and Watkins. And I just think maybe that is something that we're going to be maybe doing next season. So that's just an observation that I made, and maybe we are going to go with sort of like 3 centre-backs and then a left-back, and then you get more of that asymmetric vibe through there. You then have sort of like 3 centre-backs that can come in and cover and offer. You know, we've got more height in there. We've got more physicality. And I think it may be something to keep our eye on. But like you say, Justin, I think the last couple of games, it really does highlight a couple of positions where I think you can clearly see where needs improving. I think this area here, the Ramsey position, I think maybe could do with looking at. This one, 110% needs looking at. Definitely. And I think those are 2 areas that we need improving. So what do you make of that, Justin?
Yeah, I think when we saw Carlos coming on, we both, well, all 3 of us thought we were going to move to a 3 at the back and play with wing backs. We didn't do that. We just shifted Konsa across, and as Ryan has coined the phrase, a false right back. So yeah, and it sort of worked. I mean, Konsa's, he's not a naturally attacking player, is he? I think he did a decent enough job there. I mean, if he's going to persevere in this system, then I think the ideal player to play in that role, if I could think of a Premier League player off the top of my head, would be like a Kyle Walker type, who he can play naturally at centre half, but he can also get forward. He's got that in his locker of playing at right back as well, so he can play both positions easily as comfortably. So he may look to maybe recruit someone that can sort of do that dual role as well. The one highlight for me was Diego Carlos. I thought he was absolutely outstanding when he come on. I mean, the bloke's built like a machine, isn't he? He headed the ball at one point. He went about 30 yards, and his passing range was absolutely phenomenal. He's an absolute beast, and you could see why they paid the money for him in the summer. And it was lovely to see him finally get off the bench. But he looked comfortable on the ball, and he looks a proper player. So that was a massive highlight yesterday, getting him on the pitch and seeing him play. So he could be a huge addition to us next season. But yeah, there are certain roles that if you like, Emery's had to sort of put round pegs in square holes, hasn't he? Because he hasn't got the players maybe to play these sort of hybrid positions that he likes. The right back that plays as a central defender, the left back that plays as a left winger. Moreno was probably the only one really, because he's actually gone out and bought him to play that specific role. But the likes of Buendia and Ramsey have had to sort of adjust their games to fit in this new system and way of playing. And they've done well at times. They have had moments when they've looked outstanding, but they're not putting that consistent level of performance in that would mean that you wouldn't have to go looking elsewhere for players. So I think that is 100% where we're going to be looking to strengthen in the summer.
Definitely. Right. So we'll go in normal debrief fashion, then we'll have a look at all of the stats and everything to do with the game, and then we'll just round it all off. So Villa had an XG of 1.48. Wolves had 0.76. This was the match dominance on expected threat. Villa are in the blue, Wolves are in the orange. Again, Villa heavily with an expected XG. Shot map, Villa peppered the goal. Wolves had hardly any chances, really, did they? This was the Wolves' average position. So they do tend to play with this asymmetric vibe as well. And you can really see that they looked to get the ball out wide to Mateus Nunes, Neves. Their sort of threat up top was very little, wasn't it? Villa's average positions are pretty much what you'd want it to look like, really. You can see that Ashley Young is a little bit more tucked in, offering that cover. Moreno's further forward. You've got the double pivot through here. Ramsey a little bit further forward. Traore and Bailey doing their things over there. And then this was the Villa passing network, which we showed on the match reaction. So you can see that it goes into the double pivot and it just really breaks down creativity-wise when it sort of gets into Ramsey, Buendia and Bailey. This was the danger creation from Wolves, and that is it from Aston Villa. But I just wanted to touch on some little player performances and some sort of stats of some of the players and how they played and how they impacted the game. So Buendia on SofaScore had the highest rating from a Villa player on 7.5. And interestingly, he had 9 ground duels and he won 7 of them. He had 3 aerial duels and he won 2 of them. He lost the ball 12 times. He had a passing accuracy of 69.2%. If we have a look at Jacob Ramsey, he had a passing accuracy of 84%. And he also won 4 of his 6 ground duels, gave the ball away 7 times. So this is a big one that I've sort of opened my eyes up to a little bit on this left-hand side, is that Moreno had 76% passing accuracy and he gave the ball away 17 times. So he lost possession down that left-hand side 17 times against Wolves. Carlos came on, like you said about his heading, 3 aerial duels, 3 aerial duels won. So, you know, he don't lose them aerial duels, which is great. Watkins had 75% passing accuracy, won 1 of his 3 ground duels, 3 of his 6 aerial duels. And Leon Bailey was on the pitch for 45 minutes and lost the ball 9 times. He won 2 of his 5 ground duels, 1 of his 1 aerial duels, 72% passing accuracy. So, with all that said, Justin, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it just basically highlights exactly what we saw on the day. Our eyes don't really deceive us that often. There was dominance for us. They were happy to give us the ball. The one thing about I was a little bit disappointed on was when Buendia came off, because he came off our side and he wasn't happy to be taken off, wasn't he? Now, whether that was just frustration that he maybe was hoping he could do something in the game, or frustration that he maybe felt he hadn't played that well, I don't know, but he wasn't happy being taken off, and I think his overall attitude in the game, he has this, whether it's a South American trait of just throwing his arms up in the air and frustrated, and I think he had family in the stands because he kept looking over and waving at him just before the game kicked off. So he was obviously keen to impress people.
Looked like he was waving at us at one point, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. So yeah, I do get it. He's keen to be a Premier League top player, isn't he? And it's just not happening for him. It happens in bits, fits and starts. He's got all the ability in the world, isn't he? I think he might feel the pressure in the next couple of games with Coutinho now, fit and able to maybe play some part in the game. So he might find his game time decreases even more over the next 3 games. Yeah, I can't sit here and say I'm disappointed about the season at all. I'm over the moon with the manager we've ended the season with. We're going to finish about 8th now, more or less. There's still a chance of finishing 7th. We'd have to play out our skins in the last 3 games, which, who says we can't do that? We've certainly done it in the past, so if we could regain some kind of form now, I'm not ruling out a late little dart for Europe, but 8th at the start of the season would have been a dream for all of us. So we've ended the season with a fantastic manager, and so much to look forward to next season with this addition of the backroom chap as well, coming from Barcelona, which is a huge coup for us. So while I'm disappointed with individual games, and I have been over the last week of the 3 games that we've had, we've dropped some disappointing points. The overall picture is we're in a massively strong position now to really attack next season on all fronts. If we don't get Europe, then we can have a huge go at the 2, domestic competitions as well. So lots to look forward to, lots to be proud of with this team, and lots to really get our teeth into for next season.
Yeah, no, I don't think any Villa fan is frustrated by the big picture. I
No.
mean, that's just obvious. Do you know what I mean? Like, nobody's annoyed of like how good we've done, because everybody can clearly see the job that Emery's done, where we were, how well we've done to get in this position. But I just think, I remember saying a couple of weeks ago that our mentality's got to change a little bit as well, and we've got to. We've kind of got to expect more, because we should be expecting more of our players. We should be wanting us to push and compete and get into these territories of such fifth, sixth, seventh. Like, the willingness of wanting us to do that, it's an okay expectation to have, because of what the players have done. The players have showed us that they can compete. So,
Yeah.
do you know what I'm saying? Like, that they've already
Yeah.
shown us that they can beat top teams. So, for us to go to a game and want us to win and know that we could potentially have achieved something, I think that's where my frustration came from. It's not that I'm frustrated that we're not going to do it, and I'm looking at the season thinking it's been poor, and I'm being negative. It's just that I'm trying to push the expectation, because I feel like I want to. Do you know what I
I
mean? That
think I think when he came in, he obviously had to assess our squad. Now, I would say any team in that Premier League, wherever you are, whether you're bottom or you're top, I mean, we saw Southampton getting a fantastic result the other week. Any team can get a result on in a day, because they've all got top players in every single Premier League team. Now, the key is to for that, as we've said it all along, said at the start of the season, consistency. Now, we hit a level of consistency in those 10 games that we all thought wasn't a fluke. It wasn't a one-off. It was a well-drilled, well-organised, consistent run of results. Now, when you do that for a long period of time, you think you've cracked it. So when the performance levels do drop off, I presume the manager and his coaching and his analytical team then has to go away and go, okay, why has that happened? We've done nothing different in those 3 games as we did in the 10, where we're getting really good results. And it can only be the players' possible mentality issue, that whether they... Or I could be being harsh and saying it literally was because we were flogging them to death almost, because we had a very small squad and that 11 were playing week in, week out. Maybe it was that they just ran out of steam, and the legs were gone a bit, and they did need... you look at City, the way they come on strong at the end of the season, they do that because they've got 2 world-class players in every single position on the pitch, and he rotates from day one of every season. He'll rotate, and his results at the start of the season aren't always as good as they are in this title running, because he's got 22 fully fit and fresh players for every single game, because he'll play, he'll change 7 or 8 players each game. We can't do that. So I think there is a natural drop off in that for us. I think that's definitely caught up with us. But there is definitely as well players' mentality that he probably will go away and question now and find players that maybe can do it week in, week out. And we are going to be buying a better calibre of player, I think, in the summer. Players that have done it consistently for season on season on season, have basically played at the top level, the top 6 in every single league they've played in. And it is a different mentality, a different way of playing, if you like, isn't it? And carrying that burden on your shoulder. So there's a lot to take in. He's learnt a lot this season, and we're going to be better for it come next season. I firmly believe that.
Definitely, cool. So that'll be it for the debrief today. And we'll be back tomorrow with a football phone-in, where we'll be hearing the thoughts of Villa fans. So that's going to be a really good episode, hearing what they've got to say as well. So cheers, everyone, for watching. Thanks a lot, and we'll speak to you all soon. Up the Villa.
Up the Villa.